Welcome back to the Cap Report. In this video, we will be discussing my predictions for the UFC filler arc, also known as UFC 307 Pereira versus Rountree. We're going to go right into the card. I'm not going to really touch on the prelims too much. I'm just going to read off who I have in the fights, and then we'll go ahead and just get into the main card. And so in the prelims, I've got Tim Means, I've got Carlos Esparza, I've got Ryan Spann, Cesar Almeida, Alexander Hernandez, Marina Rodriguez. I go back and forth on it between Wonderboy and Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's gotten a lot better at his wrestling, and he's used it more recently, but I'm going to go with Wonderboy. You know, on some I got one more in me type shit. I won't be surprised when that's wrong. We'll go ahead and get into the main card. So the first fight we'll talk about is in the women's bantamweight division, where Kayla Harrison has her second fight in the UFC against Caitlin Vieira. Harrison comes into this fight ranked third, coming off of a finish win over Holly Holm. She's 17-1. Vieira is ranked just one spot ahead of her at second in the division. She's 14-3, and she's 3-1 in her last four fights with wins over Miesha Tate, Holly Holm. Her lone loss is to Raquel Pennington, and to be honest, I don't really see a way that Harrison doesn't win this fight. This isn't as much of a stylistic advantage to her as Holm was, in my opinion, but I do think she's still going to find a way to find a first round finish. She's just so big for this division, and she has such a strength advantage that I can't see her not finding a way to use those advantages, right? Her judo background kind of plays into it. I just think she's going to get the fight to the ground and find a first round finish from ground and pound. So then we'll move on to the middleweight division, where we have Kevin Holland facing Roman Dolidze. Top 15 matchup, I believe. Roman's 13-3. He's ranked 10, coming off a win over Anthony Smith. However, that was at light heavyweight. I believe he's on a 2-fight loss streak at middleweight to Vitorian Imavov. Kevin Holland's ranked 15th. He comes in with a record of 26-11. He's 1-2 in his last three, 3-2 in his last five. Very Holland-like, you know what I mean? He's very up and down, topsy-turvy in terms of his record. Coming off of a win over Oleg Jacek. And then he's got decision losses to MVP and JDM. And then if you go a little farther back, as we said, you got a finish win over Chiesa and Ponzinibbio. I don't really know what to expect from this one. I think Dolidze should have the size advantage. So if he can kind of get in close and get the fight to the ground, I think he could recreate those losses that stalled Holland's initial run. You know, similar to what Vittoria and Brunson did to him. I do think Holland's a better striker. He's going to have a notable reach advantage, 5 inches. If the fight stays standing, I think he should be able to kind of clearly outclass Dolidze, especially because Dolidze is a little more lower output, and he is very much more of a throws to the head more than anything else. He doesn't mix it up as well, and I think Holland can mix it up a little more than him. My biggest concern is sometimes the way Holland strikes, he brings himself in closer than his ranges, and he kind of allows himself to be in range of takedowns. Holland also doesn't have the submission chance if the fight goes to the ground, but I could see Dolidze just using his size and kind of smothering him, control time more than anything there. But I'm going to go with Holland. I think Dolidze might get the fight to the ground in one of the rounds. I don't know which one, but I think Holland will be able to create more damage through his striking, and he'll find probably a 29-28 decision win. The feature fight takes place in the men's bantamweight division, a top 15 matchup between 10th ranked Jose Aldo and 11th ranked Mario Batista. Now, looking through these other fights, can someone explain to me why Jose Aldo is having to fight down the rankings again? I know he's technically 10th. He should have been placed higher than that when he came back into the rankings, but I know his last fight, he was technically unranked as he was coming out of retirement, but you can't tell me he shouldn't be fighting someone like Henry Cejudo right now. I just think Aldo's got one last run on him. He's 38, and I really don't want us to waste it. Why even re-sign him just to match him up like this? You know, I imagine they want to do the classic building of someone's name off of beating an old legend. And I will say, on a 6-fight win streak, I do think Mario Batista deserves this kind of opportunity, but I feel like every fight counts given Aldo's age. And so to me, it's just frustrating that he's not fighting a fight that's going to do him any good, right? He's fighting down. Obviously, he was technically not fighting down previously, but it feels like he's fighting down 2 fights straight. But Jose Aldo comes into this fight with a 32-8 record. He's off of 1 win. He's won 4 of his last 5. A run of Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, the lone loss to Merab, the current champ, and a win over Jonathan Martinez. All ranked guys. Mario Batista comes into this fight at 14-2 on a 6-fight win streak. His most notable recent win being over Ricky Simone. So this is definitely a step up in competition for him. But as we said, Aldo is an aging opponent, especially in a lower weight class. But Aldo has seemed to kind of just avoid what most older guys go through at like bantamweight, featherweight. He's made adjustments to his game to kind of stay relevant and keep his winning ways. Batista has great volume and pressuring ability in the stand-up. He has a strong submission game as well. I do think there's a world where the pressure could be effective against Aldo. Aldo has amazing takedown defense, so I don't think we'll see this fight go to the ground. But the pressure and kind of pushing a high pace in elevation could be a recipe for success for Batista. For Aldo, I think he just has to fight his fight. You know, crisp boxing, working to the body, using his size and his experience to his advantage. I am a little concerned since this fight is at altitude. Last time he fought in Salt Lake City was the Merab loss, but the gassing was maybe a little more of the defending a million takedowns from Merab than just it being at elevation. I do think though we'll see Aldo kind of tire a little bit in the later round. But I see this fight as a decision win for Jose Aldo. He just seems to be able to work his game against the strikers of this division very well. You know, he's got very well kept boxing and very, very strong risk management. He lands his strikes and defends well. And I feel like he still has the right recipe, and it just might be a bit too much of a step up for Mario Batista, who I do think is a great fighter. I just think Batista might land at a higher volume, but I feel like Aldo will land the more damaging and effective striking. In the co-main event, we have the women's bantamweight title on the line as Raquel Pennington defends her belt against Juliana Pena. Pena's worthiness of this shot is definitely on shaky ground, really running off the legacy of that win over Nunes. It was really funny. I was watching that fight back, and one of the comments mentioned her style being very DDP-like, and I actually kind of see it. Granted, I think she has less skill than him, and definitely less, it's everything at a lesser value, you know what I mean? Like a great value DDP. Setting up this matchup real quick, we have Juliana Pena coming into this fight at 12-5, coming off a very bad decision loss to Amanda Nunes over 2 years ago. Raquel Pennington is 16-9. She's on a 6-fight win streak, including wins over Macy Chiasson, Aspen Ladd, Caitlin Vieira, and Mayra Bueno Silva. For Juliana Pena, I think this is really going to be about being the tougher fighter and landing heavier shots. I really don't see her outclassing or outskilling Pennington anywhere. She has a bit of a reach advantage, and I think there are moments that she can catch Pennington sometimes. On Pennington's entrances, she can kind of leave herself a bit open, especially when she kind of wants to keep you guessing as if she's going to shoot for a takedown or step in and throw a straight or something. Like sometimes she'll step forward with her head and leave her hands behind her a little bit. So I do think there's a chance for Pena to catch her maybe with like a straight or something in that opening, but that's pretty much it. I would think that this has to be a gritty performance, maybe a little more dirty boxing from Pena. Yeah, I really think for her to win this fight, it's going to be about her taking Pennington's shots and just throwing harder back at her. I do think Pennington's pretty much better all around comparative to Pena. I like her striking and grappling more. I think she has a better fight IQ as well. The way Pena strikes, there will be plenty of kind of moments for Pennington to land. There will be a lot of times where Pena will kind of overextend and leave herself open. I don't think that Pennington can find a finish off of those kind of situations, but I do think she can land kind of significant and relevant striking, damaging strikes in those moments. My prediction is, I think that early in the fight, this will be competitive. Pennington will be there. Pennington will be the better striker, but Pena will be able to land some good shots. But I do think as the fight wears on, Pena will kind of stay in the fight off of toughness, with Pennington kind of taking over the fight late. Pena will get sloppy and slow with their punches late, and I don't think Pennington will be able to find a finish. I don't think it will be on the level of the Nunes win over Pena, but I do think she can control this fight pretty standardly through striking to a unanimous decision. I'm thinking it's probably going to be like a 49-46 to Pennington. In the main event, we will be making our way to the light heavyweight division, where Alex Pereira will defend his title for the third time this year, this time against Khalil Rountree. There's been a lot of talk about the validity of this title shot, which is understandable. Why wasn't it on Ankalaev? Who is Rountree beat to get this title shot? Now, this is exactly why I call it a filler card for the UFC. They had a pay-per-view to fill, there weren't a lot of great options available, and there was no way they were going to let Pennington Pena headline a pay-per-view. So on comes the master of the short notice fight, Alex Pereira, for a Mickey Mouse title defense. Getting into the details of the fight, Alex Pereira, he comes into this fight at 11-2. He's on a 4-fight win streak, all 4 being a part of his run at light heavyweight. He had the shaky decision win over Jan Blachowicz, actually at Salt Lake City as well. 3 title fights, all won by finish, twice over Yuri Prohaska and once over Jamal Hill. Khalil Rountree is 14-5. He's on a 5-fight win streak, 4 of those being finishes, and most recently and notably over Anthony Smith. So what do I think of this fight? It's a huge step up in competition for Rountree. Smith was ranked 8th at the time. I think Rountree's ranked 7th right now. We keep asking the question, who's going to be the one to try and grapple with Pereira, and it doesn't feel like Rountree's going to be that guy. I think for Rountree to win, he's going to have to fight. He's going to have to get this fight kind of closer range with Pereira, make it a real scrap. I think you're going to want to go like shot for shot, get into exchanges with him, and kind of see if you can catch him in that kind of situation. I think if he allows the fight to be at range, Pereira will be able to kind of just pick his punches, really control the striking. Pereira does hold a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. I think Rountree is a bit too reckless. I think he throws too many heavy shots and kind of leaves himself open a lot because of that. I just don't think he's fought as many guys who can take advantage of that. He just leaves himself in positions to be countered, which doesn't match up well with Pereira. And in closing the distance, I think he can kind of somewhat limit that vulnerability. For Pereira, I think he wins this fight, continuing what he has done in his previous ones. Approach at his own pace, looking for the leg and body kicks as they are going to be open to him. In a 5-rounder at elevation, that should work well to slow down Khalil Rountree and his movement. In keeping the fight at range, I think he can beat Rountree in the striking with straights and looking to kind of counter the openings that Rountree will leave. It really isn't a crazy game plan, and you never know, but I do expect the fight to stay stand. Now, how do I see this fight playing out? I don't think you're going to see both throwing a ton in the first few minutes of the fight. I think Rountree is going to be circling Pereira a lot as he kind of looks to find his distance. And I think that Pereira will kind of look to land a few leg kicks and might, even land like a heavy body kick as well there. Rountree is going to begin to kind of start throwing it straight, trying to set up that left overhand. And I think there may be a point or two going back and forth, but I see the mainly taking turns. As I said, throwing straight, kind of finding the range. And I think late in the first, I think Rountree's going to throw out the overhand a little bit more. I think Pereira's going to be able to time them. He's either going to follow up on one missing or simply just landing before him with a straight. And I think Alex Pereira wins this fight by first round knockout. Those are going to be my picks for UFC 307. By all means, let me know what you think of my picks. What are your picks? Any thoughts in general, just leave them in the comments. As always, if you can, please leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate anyone who views the video, any of that. But let's go ahead and let's enjoy these fights, y'all.